All right, hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so today we're looking at something that I think is pretty important to everyone, and that's food. And not just food itself, but how we get it.
Right.
We're going to be talking about biotechnology in agriculture and how it's changing, the whole game.
Yeah.
We've got some really interesting stuff to dig into today. We've got this excerpt from a government document about how biotechnology impacts national security.
Oh, wow.
And it's pretty fascinating stuff.
I bet.
So I think everyone knows, we've been messing with crops and livestock for a long time.
Of course. Yeah.
Like making bigger tomatoes and faster horses. But biotechnology, it's like taking that to a whole new level.
It really is. For over 10,000 years, humans have been modifying plants and animals.
Yeah.
And even microbes, selecting for the traits that we want, like a sweeter fruit or a cow that produces more milk.
Yeah, but that took a long time, right?
Yeah. It was a very slow process. But now, with tools like gene editing, we can target specific genes for specific outcomes.
Wow.
It's like we're editing the code of life itself.
So it's not just like randomly breeding stuff anymore.
Yeah.
We're going in and actually making these tiny little changes
Precise changes, yeah.
to get exactly what we want. That's pretty wild. So what does that actually look like
Yeah.
in the real world?
So let's take cover crops, for example.
Okay.
Farmers plant these between main crops to protect and enrich the soil. But the problem is most cover crops don't make farmers any money.
Right, they're just kind of there.
They're just kind of there. But scientists are using gene editing to change that.
Really?
They're working with a plant called Pennycress and turning it into this super-powered cover crop that also produces oil for biofuel and protein for animal feed.
Oh, wow. So it's like a 2-for-1.
Exactly. It's doing double duty. It's helping the soil, and it's helping the farmer's bottom line.
And potentially, if we're making biofuel from it, that could even help reduce our reliance on fossil fuel.
Absolutely.
That's pretty amazing. So it's not just plants, right?
No, not at all.
What about livestock? Are they doing stuff with like cows and pigs and things?
Absolutely. Take cattle, for instance.
Okay.
You know how
Right.
we all get a little grumpy when it's hot out?
Oh, yeah.
Well, cows are the same way. Above 80 degrees, they experience heat stress, which means less milk and meat production.
That makes sense. It's got to be hard to be a giant, furry creature in the heat.
It is. But gene editing could change that.
Really?
Scientists are exploring ways to give cattle shorter hair and alter their metabolism to help them stay cool,
Even when it's super hot out.
even in scorching temperatures.
So happy cows and maybe cheaper burgers and ice cream for us.
Potentially, yes.
That's a win-win. But it's not just about, economics and stuff.
No.
This report we're looking at, it talks about how this technology has huge implications for national security.
It does, and it's pretty fascinating.
What do they mean by that?
Well, think about it. A nation that can reliably feed itself is inherently more secure. Biotechnology can help us do that, not just by increasing yields, but also by making our food supply more resilient.
Okay, how so?
Well, for example, scientists are using gene editing to make crops more resistant to pests and diseases, and even drought.
Which is, with climate change and everything,
Yeah.
that's going to be more and more important.
Exactly.
So we're talking about a future where we're not so reliant on other countries for food,
Right.
and we're better able to deal with, crazy weather or political instability.
Exactly.
That's a pretty big deal. But just to kind of back up for a second,
Sure.
could you give us a quick, ELI 5 on gene editing itself?
Of course.
How does it actually work?
So imagine you have a long sentence with a spelling mistake. Gene editing is like having a tool that lets you go in and fix that single mistake without rewriting the whole sentence. One of the most popular tools for this is called CRISPR. It basically acts like a pair of molecular scissors, allowing scientists to cut DNA at precise locations and either disable a gene or insert new genetic material.
Wow, so it's all about precision.
It is.
Going in and making these tiny little tweaks to get the exact outcome you want. But go back to this national security angle for a second.
Yeah.
This technology, it could have some serious geopolitical implications, right?
It absolutely could.
What if some countries get really good at this and others don't? That could shift the balance of power.
There's that saying, the nation that controls its food supply controls its destiny, and biotechnology gives countries a powerful tool to do just that.
It's almost like, we're entering a whole new arms race.
Yeah.
But instead of weapons, It's all about food production and scientific advancement.
I think that's a really good way to put it.
It makes you think, all right, let's talk about fertilizer.
Ugh.
I mean, fertilizer is a huge part of agriculture.
It is.
But it's expensive. The supply chain is fragile. And all that runoff, it pollutes our waterways.
It's a big problem.
So what's biotechnology doing about that?
Well, there's some promising research focusing on soil microbes. These tiny organisms are already doing some of the work of fertilizer. They pull nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form that plants can use. This is called nitrogen fixation. Scientists are using gene editing to make these microbes even more efficient at nitrogen fixation.
Oh, wow. So we could potentially reduce or even eliminate the need for synthetic fertilizer.
Potentially, yes.
That would be huge.
It would.
I mean, for farmers, for
Yeah.
the environment, even for the price we pay for food at the grocery store.
Absolutely.
It's like these little tiny fertilizer factories just working away in the soil.
It is. It's harnessing the power of nature.
So we've covered a lot of ground here today, and it's clear that biotechnology is really changing the game when it comes to agriculture.
It really is.
It's offering solutions for food security, environmental sustainability, and economic stability.
It's a game changer.
But we've also talked about, some of the potential downsides,
Right.
like, geopolitical instability or unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
So it's a complex issue, and it's one that we all need to be thinking about. So what do you think? What role should these technologies play in our future food system?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are no easy answers, but one thing's for sure. We need to keep having these conversations, open and informed conversations about these technologies, weighing the potential benefits against the potential risks, the future of agriculture, and ultimately, the future of our planet depends on it.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Thanks for having me.